Hi, I'm recording this on Friday, November 4th. I'm trying to give an updated overview of the process by which educators in SFUSD can audit their pay and make sure that they're being compensated correctly. These resources are available, as you can see from the link, at tiny.cc/SFUSD payroll. The video that I'm recording currently will be accessible at the link indicated here where it says video overview. The school district in the spring put together a list of resources that they have as known issues. If you click on this link, it should take you to this page here that has information about Empower. Note that it includes communication from Superintendent Matt Wayne. And if you click on known issues, it will take you to a list of every week on Wednesdays updated issues. So for example, they already know about ongoing issues with 403B and 457 contributions that specifically address employees with multiple assignments, meaning that they're at different locations. This information may or may not actually be useful to you, but there's at least the potential that you'll get a faster response if you specifically reference the same phrasing that they're using for the known issues and indicate that you are part of a category of people that they may or may not already know about. As you discover any issues, the primary place that I've been submitting them is at this link over here. This takes you to the internal system. This is also accessible through Empower, but I found it through this link. Once you log in with your district email address, you'll be able to both submit and easily view all of the requests that you've made. And so, for example, you can see over here the request that I've submitted as long as 2 months ago without any sort of update. Again, none of this guarantees any sort of response, but I have found more success doing it this way than through email, for example. The school district recently added a phone number, 415-463-1550, that some people have had success with. No guarantees, but there are human beings during business hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, not including holidays, that theoretically might be able to help address your issues in real time. The process for us to actually begin auditing begins with first verifying your salary schedule and steps on Empower. This is the same place that you can log in order to do your time and attendance. There you have to sign in every day. And to verify your steps, you can go to My Employee File up at the top. And after it loads, the next step is to go to Employment Information. Once you go to Employment Information, you scroll below Organizational Information and then to Job Information. And then from Job Information, click Show More. To my knowledge, this is the easiest, fastest, least clicked way to find this information. And in my case, for example, I am correctly at pay scale B8, meaning that I have my bachelor's degree plus 60, and I am in my 18th year of teaching, which is why I'm listed at step 18. If this information is incorrect, including, for example, if you taught at another school district and you should have some number of years counted when you transferred to SFUSD, that should be submitted along with everything else at the same place that I just mentioned. But assuming that your pay scale and your level are correct, then you can proceed to the next step, which is to confirm the amount. This first link over here will take you to the salary schedules for certificated teachers, which does not apply to everybody, but I think applies to, probably as a percentage, the largest group of people. If you fit into some other category, you can follow this other link, and this other link will take you to, for example, classroom support people or department chairs or other categories that you can explore on your own. You'll note that the salary schedule is not incorrect when it says 2019-2020. That is the last time that we received a raise. So the problem is not with the labeling. The problem is with us having not had a raise in 3 years. You'll notice that there's a section over here for category B6. That means that you have a bachelor's degree but do not have any units beyond that. Many teachers fit into the category of B7, meaning that they have a bachelor's degree plus 30. And in my case, I am B8, meaning that I have a bachelor's degree plus 60. Once you find out your correct level, Then you have to compare your years of service, which in my case is 18, but you can find out. Please note that for B7s, it effectively caps out at year 12. And for B6s, it technically goes up as far as year 13, but the amounts are significantly less. For each of the columns, this first one indicates how many years you've been teaching. Again, not only in the district, but theoretically, if you transfer from another district, some number of years could count. The second column indicates our base salary for 184 work year. The next column is QTEA add-on, and then the next column after that is the LWE add-on. These two columns, QTEA and LWE, are both parcel tax add-ons that San Francisco voters passed, and is additional money added on to your salary. The result is that your actual pay for the month should be this right column, because the right column is equal to the second column plus both the QTEA and the LWE add-on. But note that these numbers are going to end up being divided by 11, because we, unless you're working summer school, only work during the non-July months. And thus, it is not going to be divided by 12. It is going to be divided 11 when it actually shows up on your pay stub. All right, the next step is to calculate your DNP, the deferred net pay. I crossed out and still have over here the link to the calculator for last school year, specifically spring of 2022, in case that is of value to someone. I don't want to remove the information and prevent people from getting access to something that they might actually be able to use to audit old DNP. For the 2022 to 2023 school year, and theoretically proceeding into the future, your monthly deferred net pay should be 0.006944 times your yearly salary. They arrived at that number by taking 1/12 of 1/12, in other words, 1 out of 144, and taking that out of our salary 11 times will then result in our July paycheck consisting of 11/12 of our salary. Note that the number that you should be using for the deferred net pay calculations is before the QTA and FWE add-ons. So to show you on the salary schedule, say, for example, that you are, say, B7, which many teachers are, and say that you're in your 5th year, when you're verifying deferred net pay, you should use 61,473, not 7541. This information is not clearly stated, at least not any place that I found, but this is the only way that the numbers of being multiplied by 0.006944 works correctly. One effect to note of this is that deferred net pay means that your July paycheck will ultimately be smaller, right? The fact that they're taking money before the add-ons means that your July paycheck is going to be smaller than the other paychecks. It's possible this will be offset because July's paycheck should not have CalSTRS taking out, which we'll come back to in a second. But just note that after having to guess and check the numbers a bunch of times, deferred net pay is specifically tied to the pre-add-on amount, not to the post-add-on amount. All right, so after you've verified to make sure that your deferred net pay is the amount that it is quote unquote supposed to be, the next step is to audit your pay stub line by line. Note that your previous pay stubs, you will have to check on a regular basis. I recommend downloading them or printing them, because if you click to check your pay stub, it will not show any previous errors. My understanding is that every time you click to view your pay stub, it will generate a new one based upon the information that they have at the moment that you click. So if they made a mistake, say, for example, 3 months earlier, and you did not download or print it, if you today go to see what your pay stub was 3 months ago, you will instead see the current one after they've made whatever sort of changes. And so there's no way for you to go back and see earlier versions before they made any changes, unless you are downloading and printing them every single time. All right, so how does one access the pay stubs? You go back into Empower. This is the exact same place that we were before. And instead of going to employee information, employment information, you go to pay information. For pay information, there's information about direct deposit. And instead, you scroll down and click where it says pay statement. In the interest of not doxing myself, I am going to be showing a version that has elements redacted. But if you click pay statement, you will see the current pay stub, and there will be a left arrow and a right arrow through which you can navigate to previous months or navigate back to the present month. So the pay stub that I have that has had my information redacted should look like this. And this specifically is my pay stub for August, the most recent one as of the time of this recording. Underneath your name, it should list your address. The employee ID number is left blank, and under the old system, this is where it would list B6, 7, or 8 and how many steps, but that, again, is only accessible having to log in separately. There should be correct information about your marital status. Some people are married and had it converted to single for some inexplicable reason, and that, along with many other things, is worth a ticket being submitted. All right. By far, the place that has the most concern is the hours and earnings. You have a salary number that's listed over here, and your monthly salary should be 1/11th of this second column. The right column over here we'll come back to because there's separate add-ons, but that first row should be 1/11th of whatever your yearly salary is. Note that to the right of that, there's a section for year-to-date, and theoretically, your year-to-date should be every month's earnings for salary and every month's earnings for each of the add-ons, et cetera. But the right column indicates how much you've gotten paid so far for each category. Below the salary add-on, there is an FWEA salary add-on CER PAR, and below that, a QTEA salary add-on CER. These line items correspond to the two parcel tax add-ons with, for some inexplicable reason, a change in the abbreviation. You'll notice QTEA is consistent between the salary schedule and the pay stub, but what the pay stub calls FWEA, instead the salary schedule calls LWE. It's the exact same thing. And at least in theory, you should also have your monthly earnings be 1/11th of the amount that's given, because the add-ons are tied to the salary, and thus we do not get those add-ons during the summer. In contrast to, in my case, I have National Board Stipend, and this one is paid during 12 months. So it is divided by 12 rather than being divided by 11. In my case, I received a stipend for teaching AP classes. Some number of people who taught AP classes did not get their stipend, and that, with everything else, should have a ticket submitted. I took 2 sick days during this month. Note that it is listed as hours because theoretically we're working 7 hours per day, so 2 days is 14 hours. There is a line for an adjustment, which is scary to many people because it lists a negative number. The adjustment, once we know what it is in some ways actually useful. If you look back to the early pay stubs, and I believe January and February, before the adjustment was added as a line item, instead, you would not have an adjustment and the salary would fluctuate from month to month. So for example, if you took a sick day, you would have 1 sick day on your pay and you would be minus on your salary, whatever the 1 sick day is worth. The benefit of having the adjustment as a separate line item is that every single month your salary should be consistent. Again, no guarantee that will be, but at least it should be. And the adjustment should, again, not always, but should exactly be equal to whatever sort of leave you took. So for example, maybe you had a sick day and then you also had a COVID day, and then also you had a bereavement leave, and you had some combination of days that are all separate line items. Each month, the adjustment line should be equal to the exact same amount in order to offset and counteract one another, such that your salary will be consistent from month to month. The last section under hours and earnings is the DNP. This, again, is equal to 0.006944 times your yearly salary. And again, it is your yearly salary from the pre-add-on section for reasons that the district has made decisions. Then below that, you'll have a row for the total. And so there's a total for your hours and earnings, a total for your year-to-date hours and earnings. To the right of that is a section for taxes. First is your federal withholding tax, next your federal Medicare tax, and then next your California withholding tax. I know some people got much larger tax bills in April of last year than they were anticipating. I also know that some people who got large amounts of money in 1 year, for example, because they were owed back pay, ended up getting significantly more taken out in taxes than they were anticipating. One thing which I forgot to mention, and happens not to show up on my October paycheck, but does show up on other people's, some folks have a line item under their paycheck that is listed as DIF Pre-P, DIFPREPE. That is a universal catch-all term that the school district uses when they want to make an adjustment from the previous period. So for example, in the spring, there was a month where they underpaid every single person by $20, let's pretend. There would be a line item for DIF Pre-P indicating that the following month that they are making an adjustment from the previous pay period, that's DIF Pre-P. That said, however, there are definitely cases where people's DIF Pre-P is inexplicable. I had one, for example, that was for the same month, which is contrary to the idea of a previous pay period. I know there's a teacher who had a DIF Pre-P for tens of thousands of dollars. So it is not entirely explicable, but just note that the DIF Pre-P at least sometimes is offsetting a previous error. This section down here is before tax deductions. I have money set aside for a 403B. As we established, there's some number of people who have ongoing known issues, especially if they're working at multiple school sites. I had problems with my 403B disappearing in the spring, which eventually got fixed, and to my knowledge, at least, has been addressed correctly. Below that is a section for CalSTRS, which we'll come back to shortly. And then below that is the money that's taken out pre-tax for my wife's Kaiser. There's a variety of after-tax deductions. One of them is additional union dues as a result of Prop A being passed. Another one is UESF full dues that also increased as a result of Prop A. Part of it is UESF mandatory contributions, and I have supplemental accidental insurance with Washington National Insurance Company, although not everybody does. There's also a large section of employer-paid benefits, things including contributions to insurance and other categories. To my knowledge, there have not been errors on the pay stub, although there have been no shortage of people whose insurance has been interrupted at various points. Below that is your current and year-to-date for your total gross. That means the total amount of money that you've taken in. And then the federal taxable gross, because the before tax deductions in this section here, part of the benefit is that since this money is taken out before we pay taxes, that income is not taxed. The next column is total taxes you've paid, both current and year-to-date, your total deductions of various types, current and year-to-date, and then your net pay, current and year-to-date. Theoretically, your net pay should exactly equal the amount that is deposited into your bank account. If that is not the case, that is also a ticket. The annualized status should theoretically list your contract hours, daily hours, months, etc., with the idea of 7 hours per day. If that is unclear, that is worth a phone call and or a ticket. And the last thing to note is different leave balances. The illness and sick balance is the total of how many sick days you have. Every, at least teacher, I'm not sure about all educators, get 10 days per year, which works out to be 70 hours, because again, it's under the theory of 7 hours per day. And then there's a separate item for COVID sick balance. Note that these are going to expire, I believe, in December, and so those will not appear. I already used all of my extended hours earlier, but that may be a line item that many people see on their pay stub. And so that is a brief overview of how to analyze the individual components of the pay stub. And the next thing to do is to verify your STRS contribution using the calculator accessible at this link. Please note that the amount that your STRS should be is determined by when you were hired. For employees hired either December 31st of 2012 or earlier, they fit under the category of what is called 2 at 60, which means that every month your STRS contribution should be 10.25%. If you were hired January 1st of 2013 or after, you fit in the category of 2 at 62, and your contribution should be 10.205%. Right, so once you open the STRS calculator, you can audit to verify to make sure that the information is correct, and the link will have you make your own copy so that everyone's not trying to edit the same document. In this case, it's a copy of a copy. You will enter your earnings into this column and how much your STRS contribution is into this column. And every single month, this is already set to automatically multiply by the correct amount. In this case, you should be able to verify to make sure that the amount is either 10.25 or 10.205, depending upon your hire date. It'd be very easy for you to add additional months to it. I happen to make this in August of 2022, and so you can verify that. It's very easy to add. Actually, I will do that as soon as I'm done recording to make sure that people can add also the September and October. The trickiest part by far, and this is, at least to my knowledge, not stated anywhere, is that your STRS contribution requires you to manually add back the DNP that was taken out of your salary. So going back to the pay stub, if you take the number that is here under the current, your STRS contribution will be incorrect. It will be more than it should be. The reason for this is because in July, our deferred net pay lump sum does not have STRS taken out, right? Now, STRS is taken out during the months that we work, and it is not taken out during July when we don't work. So if you take your DNP, because that is subject to STRS, and add it back into your salary, in other words, take this line, add it to the total, and that is the number that you enter over here under earnings, then the number should be consistent. At least it was for me. But it took me hours of trying to figure out why it was that my STRS contributions were, to my knowledge, incorrect. And it specifically has to do with the July DNP payment not being subject to STRS, but the money being subject to STRS before it's deducted for DNP. All right. The last thing, at least to my knowledge, to address has to do with some number of educators who have not been getting full credit for STRS. STRS counts, among other things, how many years the teacher has been working, and that is accessible at calstrs.com. I should mention that I have messaged them at various times, and they respond very, very quickly, in some cases in as little as 2 hours. But once you make your account, you will be able to very, very quickly verify to make sure that you have the correct number of years of service. After you log into My STRS, you will click on View Your Retirement Progress Reports. You'll notice also that it verifies that I am a 2 at 60 employee. Once you click on that, it has a yearly report going all the way back, in my case, to 2006. But to my knowledge, people have been having errors in 2022. So that will open a new document personalized just for you that, at least in my case, has the correct information. Specifically, under service credit activity, it lists me as having, as of July 1st, 2021, 15.6. And then my current service is 1.0. And this is the area where people have been having issues, where they've been getting fractions of service. This is especially an issue for people who are either retired or close to retirement because they're not getting full credit they should. In my case, it lists as 0.6 because I was on sabbatical for a year, which only counts as 0.6 of a year of service. So my numbers are correct. But again, if people have issues, to my knowledge, it is going to be specific with this line item. I've contacted STRS, and universally their response has been they cannot do anything except give information, that all issues have to be addressed with the employer, i.e. with SFUSD. but you can message them. And like I said, they're very, very responsive every time I've communicated with them. All right, so that is the entirety of the updated information about how to audit your pay stub, including some updates in fall of 2022. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, congratulations. Please, please, please share this far and wide to as many people as you could find. There are fewer people who have seen the video than have viewed the document, because I can check both of them. But however it is that you're sharing the information, please share it to other people. The only way that the district is going to address the issues that have been plaguing us is if we notify them of it and put pressure on them. If we do not submit tickets, if we do not call them, the odds of them addressing issues that you have, whether you know about them or not, is effectively nothing. Thank you for your time. And again, please share far and wide.